Saturday morning, it's the Experts program on Power Talk 1460 and 101 FM. We're kicking things off with our tech expert, Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group. Good morning, Luis.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Doing pretty good today. Hey, we've got some interesting stuff to talk about here, and that is some tax scams that could really cost you. And, we sometimes get these telephone calls just out of the blue from people claiming to represent the IRS and that we owe a big tax bill, and if we don't pay it right now, they're going to have the county sheriff come and arrest us.
Yep.
And unfortunately, there are a lot of suckers out there, and people fall victim to that. I don't know. Yeah. It's too bad. It does happen all the time, so that's why we're going to talk about it here.
Yeah, and as we get closer to the end of tax season, we're just a few weeks away from when you have to file your taxes. This is where most people start scrambling to try to get things done. The bad guys know that, and they know that this is when you're probably at your most harried when it comes to doing your taxes, and as you scramble to get everything put together, and more of us than ever are filing our taxes electronically, which only lends to the danger. And so calling you and making threats saying, hey, we know that you've been avoiding taxes, and some people unfortunately have been avoiding taxes, so they get a guilty conscience, so they're like, oh my God, how'd they find out?
Exactly.
I need to, I have to do what these guys tell me to. And the reality is nobody's ever going to call. The IRS is not going to call and threaten you in any way, and they're sure as heck not going to ask for things like iTunes gift cards, which is the kind of thing that these folks will say, go out and buy $2,000 worth of iTunes gift cards and mail them to this address. So if you get any of those kind of calls, hang up, call the authorities and say that you've been victimized, and they'll look into it. But definitely, at best, just hang up and move on.
And the thing is, too, is, think about this. You get a telephone call, and they say they're from the IRS, and they're going to send the sheriff or the police to pick you up. Now, look, the IRS is a federal agency. If the IRS was going to arrest you, they have their own agents, or they work with federal marshals to arrest people. They don't have deals with the county sheriff or the local police department to come to your house and get you. The IRS doesn't work that way. So that would be the first tip-off, that the person that's running a scam on you doesn't know the first thing about how these three different branches of government would operate. And that's probably because the call is coming from a boiler room in Russia or the Ukraine.
Yeah, especially if they have an accent. That's a dead giveaway as well.
Right, exactly. And then the other thing, too, is we've been told this, numerous times. The only way the IRS contacts you, if you get a notice that you're going to be audited, it comes via the mail, via snail mail from the United States Postal Service. It doesn't come via telephone or emails or anything like that. And quite frankly, scammers aren't going to use the U.S. mail because it takes too long. They want, this is one of the advantages of snail mail, is that the scammers, they want to make the money right now. As quick as you can go online and send them the money or what have you. They're not going to wait 4 or 5 days for a letter to get to you in the mail and then for you to mail it back to them. It doesn't work that way anymore.
Exactly. And more importantly, if you're Hispanic descent, like, my last name Alvarez gets me a lot of calls in Spanish, threatening calls where, these folks are preying on people that may not be here illegally, and they're just making all these threats and saying, we know that you're using a fake social security number, you better send money to this account. So for our friends who are Hispanic and get those calls, especially in Spanish, again, ignore them. Nobody's going to call you and threaten you that way.
What about the W-2 scam? That's another one where people get targeted at work.
Yeah, so this one, what they do is they will call or email somebody at the office, usually in the HR department. So they'll get somebody in HR on the phone, and they'll pretend to be the CEO, or they'll pretend to be an outside company that works with your company, and they'll say, hey, I need a copy of all of the W-2s. If you have that spreadsheet with everybody's social security number and their pay and their birth date, could you send that to me? And it sounds obvious when I say it that, well, of course, nobody would do that. But the reality is many people fall prey to that because they're just trying to get their job done. And they know it's, late in the game, taxes need to be filed. Maybe the boss wants something to finalize some payment that he has to make or she has to make. And so if you're working in an office and you get a call or an email from your boss asking for something that doesn't look right, then it probably isn't right. And you should pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, did you ask for this? And chances are they're going to tell you, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
So that's what you want to do. The other thing, too, is work scams. This happened to a friend of mine who's manager of a restaurant. She got a call after the restaurant had closed one night, and it was someone who identified themselves as being in the corporate accounting office, and they were doing an audit on the restaurant's operations, and they believed that one of the other assistant managers was embezzling funds from the restaurant. And the person, it all sounded quite legit, and they said they were coming in the morning and they were going to be part of an audit team, but what they needed this person to do was to take the day's receipts and transfer the money to them, to this particular department. And my friend got hoodwinked on this. She went ahead and sent them the money. It was like $2,500. And
that is too bad.
And it sounded so convincing. And here was the thing that now this was a very sophisticated scam, because this person knew the names of all of the management personnel at the restaurant.
And you know, that's not that unusual.
Yeah.
These guys do their homework. They're either casing the joint physically, which is something that you wouldn't think of cyber criminals or these guys doing, but no, they can walk in and look around. They can go on your Facebook page, on the company's Facebook page or Instagram page, and learn who's who.
Right.
And then get on LinkedIn and get the names and make them sound so legitimate, because they seem to know all the right people.
Right. They come in, do you have a card? And they get the manager's card. Now they've got the names of people.
Yep.
And so it can happen very easily. Another scam is depositing money in your bank account. How does this work? What's the scam?
Well, some people have set up their refunds to go directly into their bank account. So, you know, the IRS gives you this option where rather than having a check cut, you can have it wired directly into your bank account. So if somebody is hacking into your tax preparation system or falsifying your returns because they get access to your W-2s, and so they'll submit the return as if they were you, all of a sudden they discover that the money, rather than being sent as a check, is now going to be wired to your account. So what they do is they call you and say, hey, there was some money that was inadvertently sent to you. So if you check your bank account, you'll see an amount of, and they know the exact amount, you know, $1,682.85.
Right.
And that was sent in error. So you have to send that money back, or we're going to send the cops after you for fraudulently stealing our money. And of course, you look in your bank account. Sure enough, you find that money there. You don't know how it got there. And so you figure they're telling the truth. And then you wire the money to wherever they tell you to send it. Not only have you lost out on a fake refund, filing your own real return becomes much more problematic, because the IRS is going to say, well, we already sent you a refund. Where's that money? It becomes a real scam.
So you call the police, right? You report this to the police, and they start investigating it. What do you do with the money?
Well, they can't take it out. So eventually what they'll determine is that this was a false return. So you will eventually have to return it to the IRS after you file your real tax return, unless it's your reimbursement's even higher, in which case the IRS may actually deduct it. But typically they say, send us the money back, send it to the federal government, and then file your real return, and you'll get the real return that you're due, as opposed to, you know, doing something complicated.
But this could really delay you for quite a while.
Oh, absolutely. I had a friend of mine who's something similar happened to them, except the check was cut. And it took him almost 2 years to get that all cleared up, because, you know, the IRS first, you know, they want proof that it was actually a fake return, because, like I said, these are all filed usually electronically, so they look very legitimate. And the IRS requires a lot of heavy lifting on the part of the person whose identity was essentially stolen to prove that really it was stolen. And it can take quite a while. And you might even have to engage with an attorney that specializes in IRS law.
Well, last year, 87% of tax returns were filed electronically, so that's why this has become such a big business for the scammers. And as an aside, you know, people, you want to make sure that you do some safe computing, that you always have a firewall, and that if you are in a public place like a coffee shop and you're using your laptop there and you've got your tax information on it, don't do anything, you know, critical with money and bank account numbers and social security numbers on public Wi-Fi. You know, wait till you have a secure connection at home or at your job or something like that. One of the interesting things here, Louis, is looking at this 87% number of tax returns filed electronically. Boy, that's really changed over the years, because it used to be that everybody drove to the post office and dropped off their taxes. Not that many years ago, maybe 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, the radio station, we would do promotions where on April 15th, you would send a disc jockey or a news person out to one of the post offices where they were collecting the taxes, and you do like man on the street interviews. Or, you know, if you were your conservative talk radio station like Power Talk, you might do like anti-income tax rally at the post office, where you were giving people something for free or, what have you, passing out, anti-IRS bumper stickers or something like that. But the thing is that there used to be tons of people coming through and there'd be long lines and the police would be out there directing traffic and so forth. Now, I tell you what, this year, tax day is April 16th. Go by your local post office at any time on Monday the 16th and see how many people are driving up there to drop off their taxes. It's going to be a very small amount.
Yeah, and it's, like you said, getting smaller every year because of the convenience of electronic tax filing. And it used to be the tax preparers would do the work and then hand you the forms and you'd sign them and then they'd say, make sure to put this in the mail before the deadline. But now they press a button and it's in the IRS system and
that's right.
You're getting your tax return much faster than ever, but it provides for a lot more nefarious activities between you and your money.
Yeah, and by the way, the post offices aren't open till midnight anymore on tax day generally.
They
used to be.
I remember that, and like you said, doesn't seem like it was that long ago. But that just goes to show that you and I are aging poorly.
Yeah, we're just a couple old dinosaurs. All right.
There you go.
All right. Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, has been our guest today on Power Talk, kicking off our Experts Hour. Online, alvareztg.com. @AlvarezTG is the Twitter handle. And Luis, the toll-free number for the I-Team.
Give us a call at 866-78-I-Team. That's 866-784-8326.